Welcome, brave souls, to Sinister Secrets. I'm your host, and tonight we're delving into the darkest corners of human experience. 5 spine-tingling stories to keep you awake. Bone-chilling tales await us, each one guaranteed to haunt your sleep and make you question the very fabric of reality. So dim the lights, lock your doors, and prepare yourselves for a journey into the unknown. Our first tale is titled The Room That Shouldn't Exist. It comes to us from a small town in New England, where an old Victorian house has stood for over a century. The current owners, the Thompsons, had lived there for 5 years without incident. But one stormy night, everything changed. Sarah Thompson was home alone, her husband away on a business trip. As the wind howled outside, she heard a strange creaking sound coming from upstairs. Thinking it was just the old house settling, she tried to ignore it. But the sound persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Finally, Sarah decided to investigate. She climbed the stairs, her heart pounding in her chest. The creaking seemed to be coming from the end of the hallway near the guest bedroom. But as she approached, she realized something was terribly wrong. Where the guest bedroom should have been, there was now an unfamiliar door. It was made of dark, weathered wood, with strange symbols carved into its surface. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. She knew she shouldn't open it, every instinct screaming at her to run. But curiosity overwhelmed her fear. The door swung open with an ominous creak, revealing a room that defied all logic. It was far larger than the house could possibly accommodate, stretching into impossible darkness. The walls were covered in writhing shadows, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. In the center of the room stood a figure, its back turned to Sarah. It was tall and gaunt, with skin like cracked parchment. Slowly it began to turn. Sarah's scream caught in her throat as she saw its face, or rather, the lack of one. Where features should have been, there was only a smooth, blank expanse of skin. Sarah slammed the door shut and ran, her feet barely touching the stairs as she fled the house. When the police arrived, they found no trace of the mysterious room. The guest bedroom was exactly where it had always been, undisturbed. To this day, Sarah refuses to return to the house. She swears that sometimes late at night, she can still hear the creaking sound, as if something is trying to open a door that shouldn't exist. Our second tale, The Shadow in the Mirror, takes us to a bustling city apartment where a young woman named Emma had just moved in. She was excited about her new independence, ready to start a fresh chapter in her life. On her first night in the apartment, Emma was unpacking when she noticed something odd about the full-length mirror in her bedroom. For a split second, she thought she saw a shadow move within its reflection, even though she was standing still. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, Emma continued with her evening. But as the days passed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with that mirror. She'd catch glimpses of movement in its surface, always just at the edge of her vision. One night, unable to sleep, Emma found herself drawn to the mirror. As she stood before it, her reflection seemed to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. And then, to her horror, her reflection began to move independently. The Emma in the mirror smiled, a cold, cruel expression that sent chills down her spine. It raised a hand, pressing it against the glass from the other side. Emma watched, paralyzed with fear, as the glass began to bulge outward, as if something was trying to push through. With a sound like shattering ice, a hand emerged from the mirror, but it wasn't Emma's hand. It was gray and withered, with long, sharp nails. Emma screamed and stumbled backward as the creature from the mirror began to pull itself into our world. She ran from the room, slamming the door behind her. For hours she huddled in her living room, listening to inhuman sounds coming from her bedroom. When dawn finally broke, she gathered her courage and opened the door. The mirror was intact, showing only her pale, terrified face. But on the floor before it was a single, long nail, gray and curved, like the talon of some monstrous bird. Emma moved out that very day, leaving most of her possessions behind. She warns everyone she meets to be wary of mirrors, especially at night, because you never know what might be looking back at you from the other side. Our final story for tonight is The Whispers Beneath the Floorboards. This chilling tale comes from an old farmhouse in the Midwest, where the Carson family had lived for generations. 10-year-old Billy Carson always felt uneasy in the house, especially in his room. At night, he would hear faint whispers coming from beneath his floorboards. His parents dismissed his fears, telling him it was just the house settling or his imagination running wild. But Billy knew better. The whispers were real, and they were getting louder. He could almost make out words now, urgent and pleading. They seemed to be calling his name. One night, unable to bear it any longer, Billy crept out of bed and pressed his ear to the floor. The whispers suddenly became clear. "Help us, Billy. Please help us. We're trapped down here." Terrified but curious, Billy pried up one of the floorboards. A cold draft rushed up from the darkness below, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of earth and decay. In the dim light of his nightlight, Billy could see something moving in the space beneath his room. Pale, emaciated figures reached up towards him, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. "Join us, Billy," they whispered. "We've been waiting for you for so long," Billy screamed, alerting his parents. When they rushed in, they found him huddled in the corner, the floorboard still pried up. But when they looked, there was nothing but old insulation and dust beneath. The Carsons had the house exorcised, but it didn't help. The whispers continued, growing more insistent with each passing night. They spoke of ancient secrets, of a debt that needed to be paid. 2 weeks later, Billy disappeared. His parents found his bed empty one morning, the floorboards pried up, and a hole dug into the earth beneath. Despite extensive searches, no trace of Billy was ever found. The house stands empty now, shunned by the community. But locals swear that on quiet nights you can still hear whispers coming from within its walls. And sometimes they say you can hear a child's voice among them, calling out for help that will never come. And there you have it, dear viewers. 3 tales of terror that I hope will linger in your minds long after this video ends. Remember, the boundary between our world and the unknown is thinner than we'd like to believe. So tonight, as you lie in bed, listen closely. Is that just the wind you hear? Or is it something else, something sinister, trying to break through? If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Sinister Secrets for more tales of the macabre. And please, share your own experiences in the comments below. After all, the best scary stories are often the ones that are true. Our 4th tale tonight is one that will make you think twice about your next train ride. It's called The Train That Never Stops. Picture this, a bustling train station in the heart of a big city. Commuters rush to and fro, eager to catch their rides home. Among them is Sarah, a young woman who's running late for an important meeting. She spots her train pulling into the station and breathes a sigh of relief. As she boards, she notices something ... off. The train is eerily quiet, and the other passengers seem distant somehow. As the train pulls away from the station, Sarah settles into her seat, grateful to have made it. But her relief is short-lived. The train picks up speed faster and faster until the world outside becomes a blur. Sarah looks around, panic rising in her chest. The other passengers remain motionless, their eyes fixed straight ahead. She stumbles to the front of the train, desperate to find the conductor. But when she reaches the engine car, she finds it empty. No driver, no controls, just an endless track stretching out before them. Sarah's heart races as she realizes the horrifying truth. This train isn't going anywhere. It's trapped in an endless loop, doomed to travel forever. Days pass, then weeks. Sarah watches helplessly as the world outside repeats itself over and over. The same cities, the same landscapes, an endless cycle of déjà vu. She tries to communicate with the other passengers, but they remain unresponsive, like living statues frozen in time. As months turn into years, Sarah begins to change. Her hair grows long and wild, her clothes tatter and fade. She becomes just another ghostly passenger on the train that never stops, trapped in an eternal journey to nowhere. Legend has it that on quiet nights, if you listen closely at certain train stations, you can hear the faint whistle of a phantom train. And if you're unlucky enough to board it, well, let's just say you might want to check your ticket very carefully next time you travel. But our journey into the macabre doesn't end there, my friends. Our fifth and final tale for tonight is a story that will make you look at your childhood toys in a whole new light. I present to you The Doll That Knew Too Much. In a quaint little town, there lived a girl named Emily. On her 10th birthday, her grandmother gifted her an antique porcelain doll. The doll was beautiful, with rosy cheeks, golden curls, and eyes that seemed to sparkle with life. Emily was overjoyed and named the doll Annabelle. At first, everything was normal. Emily would play with Annabelle, have tea parties, and even sleep with the doll by her side. But then strange things began to happen. Emily would wake up to find Annabelle in different positions than where she'd left her. Objects in her room would move overnight, and sometimes, just sometimes, Emily swore she could hear a faint giggle when no one else was around. One night, Emily woke to find Annabelle sitting at the foot of her bed, staring at her with those glassy eyes. Terrified, she called for her parents. But when they arrived, Annabelle was back on the shelf, innocent as ever. Emily's parents dismissed her fears as a bad dream, but Emily knew better. The incidents escalated. Emily would find cryptic messages written in crayon on her walls, messages that seemed to predict future events. A neighbor's cat went missing, only to be found days later in Emily's closet, unharmed but terrified. And always, Annabelle's eyes seemed to follow Emily wherever she went. Desperate for answers, Emily began to research the doll's history. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. Annabelle had belonged to a little girl in the 1920s, a girl who had mysteriously disappeared. The last person to see her alive reported that she had been playing with her favorite doll. As Emily dug deeper, she uncovered a dark secret. The doll wasn't just possessed. It was a vessel trapping the souls of children it had lured over the decades. And now, it had set its sights on Emily. One stormy night, as thunder crashed outside, Emily confronted the doll. "I know what you are," she said, her voice trembling. To her horror, Annabelle's head slowly turned, its painted lips curving into a sinister smile. In a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers, it replied, "And now, my dear, you'll join us." Emily was never seen again. Her room was found empty, with no signs of struggle. The only thing out of place was Annabelle, sitting on Emily's bed, a look of satisfaction on its porcelain face. They say the doll still exists, passed from one unsuspecting child to another. So the next time you're in an antique shop and spot a beautiful old doll, think twice before bringing it home. You never know what secrets those glassy eyes might hold. And there you have it, my fellow nightmare seekers. 5 tales to keep you up at night, questioning the shadows in the corners of your room. But before we part ways, let me leave you with this chilling thought. What if these stories aren't just stories? What if, somewhere out there, a train is endlessly circling, filled with passengers who can never disembark? What if, in some child's bedroom, a doll is slowly turning its head, its painted eyes fixed on its next victim. Remember, the line between reality and nightmare is thinner than you think. So the next time you hear an unexplained noise in the night, or catch a glimpse of movement from the corner of your eye, ask yourself, is it just your imagination, or have you stumbled into one of these sinister secrets? If you enjoyed these tales of terror, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Sinister Secrets. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our weekly descent into darkness. And if you're brave enough, share your own chilling experiences in the comments below. Who knows, your story might just become our next feature. Until next time, my friends, sleep tight and remember ... the darkness is always watching. Good night. If you can sleep at all,